Good evening, all. Welcome to Vedic IAS Academy, our initiative Vedic UPSC Prelims 2023 Roundup, where we are planning to discuss some important questions. So, the first question is from additional Tier 1 bonds, AT1 bonds. Now, this question has a significance. You must be knowing about the stresses that Yes Bank has faced. Then the Securities and Exchange Board of India has ordered or given a relief for the Yes Bank, saying that they do not want to reimburse the AT1 bond holders. This was reversed by Supreme Court. Now, additional Tier 1 bonds are basically issued by banking financial institutions to shore up their Tier 1 capital. Tier 1 capital is the best quality capital. Now, what is basically Tier 1 capital? It is the capital adequacy for a financial institution, or for that matter, any organization, to continue operations absorbing losses. And the Basel Committee has recommended for a capital to risk weighted asset ratio of 9%.
So additional Tier 1 bonds. These are secured perpetual debentures. Yes. These are some of the characteristics. Second one, subordinate to all other debts and only senior to common equity. And the third one is banks can exercise buyout options. So the first question is whether this is a secured perpetual debenture. No, it has a maturity. This additional Tier 1 bonds have a maturity, so it is not a debt financial instrument issued for perpetuity. Okay, it is a non-secure. It is a non-secure debt financial instrument, but now marketed by the Yes Bank as a secured debenture. So that was not the case. So what the bond holders contended was, this was marketed as a secured, this was marketed as a secured debt financial instrument, a super safe debt financial instrument. But now they are saying that it is, this bank has faced some stresses. The bank is not legally liable to pay back the principal. Okay. So this is a false statement. Statement 1 is a false statement. Subordinate to all other debt and only senior to common equity. This is true because we know that when an asset is monetized, the first priority is given to a secured debt financial instrument holder, or what we call as a secured creditor. The second priority is given to the unsecured creditor, and the third priority is given to the shareholder or properator. So that is also correct. Now, so let me write down here, statement 2 is true. Now coming to statement 3, the banks can exercise buyout options. That is true. What do you mean by buyout? Buyout option is buying the financial instruments backed by the issuer. That is what we call as the buyout option. So the answer would be option C, 2 and 3. Option C, 2 and 3. Okay. So here we have given this is an unsecured, but Yes Bank has marketed it as a super safe safe debt financial instrument, but we know it is an unsecured financial instrument, perpetual. Sorry, it is an unsecured but perpetual. No maturity date is given. I'm sorry, it is unsecured and it is a perpetual financial instrument. Then the banks can exercise call option, that is buyout option is there to buy these bonds back from these investors. So you can actually go through the background on additional tier 1 bonds. This is a possible question because this was in news and it was covered by almost all the media outlets extensively. Additional tier 1 bonds, AT1 bonds. The second question is also something that we should expect for the UPSC Civil Services examination. The Reserve Bank of India has issued digital rupee or e-rupee, also called as CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency. With reference to Central Bank Digital Currency, consider the following statements. So you must have heard about, central bank digital currencies being used on a pilot basis by merchants across India to see and validate the transactions. So it would facilitate direct fund transfer among parties do not requiring interbank settlement services. The second statement, it utilizes distributed ledger technologies to settle transactions among parties. So which among the above statements regarding digital rupee or e-rupee is or are true? So the first statement, I have my money in my bank account, which I would be using, frequently for purchasing groceries. So when I swipe the card or when I, use a UPI facility, scanning the QR code, I am actually sending money from my bank account to the bank account of the vegetable vendor. Now, this requires an intermediary, which is the bank, a financial institution. But in case of e-rupee or digital rupee, the transaction of e-rupee do not require any interbank settlement services. Or in other words, just like handing over the physical cash to a vegetable vendor, you are actually transferring the digital rupee or e-rupee stored in your digital wallet to the digital wallet of the vegetable vendor. So basically how the transactions of e-rupee differs, or digital rupee or CBDC differs from net banking or digital banking, is in case of digital banking is the transactions require interbank settlement services, while in case of digital rupee or e-rupee or CBDC, the e-rupee is transferred from the digital wallet of the buyer to the digital wallet of the seller without involving a third party. Okay, so it facilitates direct fund transfer. So that is a true statement. And we need to understand that distributed ledger technologies or blockchain technologies. So you must be knowing about blockchain technologies. So blockchain technology is not used to validate the transaction of CBDC, but we know that there are many cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies are digital currencies that utilizes DLT, distributed ledger technologies or blockchain technologies, to validate the transactions that would keep the seller and the buyer, okay, anonymous, because it is end-to-end encrypted. So CBDC or digital currency, central bank digital currency, do not use or utilize distributed ledger technologies to settle transactions among parties. And another important point about digital rupee or e-rupee is that we have seen the value of the digital rupee or e-rupee varies in the same way as the Indian rupee. So it is nothing but rupees that are issued dematerialized rupees. Okay, so answer is one only, option A. Option A. So here you can see the timeline, the recommendations of SC Gharg committee, benefits of adopting central bank digital currencies that involve reduction in currency management costs like printing, transporting, storing paper currencies, inclusive development, that is, it can facilitate offline payment functionality, real-time payment. So micro, small, medium enterprises stands to benefit, and social benefits like cross-border, it can facilitate cross-border remittance payments. Then what do you mean by central bank digital currency? It is a fiat currency because it is issued by a central bank, but in form of electronic tokens, or what we call as in a dematerialized form. And here you can see a central bank digital currency is traditional money, but in digital form, issued and governed by a country's central bank, RBI in our case, appreciates and depreciates based on country's monetary policies, trade surpluses, and central bank, based on a digital ledger, but may or may not have leveraged blockchain or distributed ledger technology. In case of CBDC e-rupee, we do not have it. And cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, central bank digital currency is not cryptocurrency. Okay, not where it is governed by a distributed autonomous community. No, it is value dependent and determined entirely by market. That is false, and equivalent to electronic cash with claim against an intermediary such as a commercial bank. So you can go through it and see for yourself what are the salient features of central bank digital currency. Now coming to the third question, which is about the government security acquisition program 1.0. The Reserve Bank of India announced the purchase of government bonds worth 1 trillion Indian rupees. 1 trillion is 1 lakh crore rupees under the government security acquisition program. With reference to government security acquisition program, consider the following statements. Now, what we need to understand is purchase of government bonds. So it is nothing but an open market operations. An open market operation performed by Reserve Bank that involved purchase of government bonds worth 1 lakh crore Indian rupees. Now, as a result, it is what we can call as a bond buying program. Okay, in very simple words. Now, current bond yields are likely to fall. So we know that when the Reserve Bank of India engages in a bond buying program, what would happen? The demand for the bond increases. So when the demand for the bond increases, the trading of the bond in the secondary market, the market price in the secondary markets, that would increase. So what would happen? As a result, we know the payment, that is the return divided by the investment. So here the denominator is increasing. The price of the bond in the secondary market increases. So as a result, the return on investment comes down. So that is exactly what current bond yield is. So that is a true statement. the current account deficit is likely to fall. Now, what we need to understand is current account deficit has nothing to do directly with what we call as the government security acquisition program or bond buying program. The reason is, when I say directly, yes, directly there is no relation. Okay, but if we extrapolate, we can find some, indirect, you know, with so many if, so many conditionalities, but we are not going to do that. There is no direct relationship. So that is a false statement. Current account deficit has no effect. Liquidity of the market is likely to increase. So bond buying program means 1 trillion worth of 1 trillion Indian rupees worth of bonds currently in the hand, currently with the hand of the public, is being bought by the Reserve Bank of India. So the Reserve Bank of India is purchasing the bonds, handing over the money to the public. So it is likely to increase. Yes, it would increase. So answer is 1 and 3. Now we can think like this. When the liquidity increases, the demand for goods and services would increases. As a result, inflation increases. So it can actually lead to an increase in the import. So when the import increases, the current account deficit is likely to increase. Okay, but it is not always true. As a result, the rupee may depreciate, which in fact would aid the exporters or help the exporters making their products competitive in the global market. So what I'm saying is that it has no direct relationship. Such bond buying programs do not have a direct relationship on the external trade sector, but these are all interlinked. So that is the reason why I have said it is a false statement. Answer is 1 and 3. Option B. Now, the next question is about Pranam scheme, a very important topic with reference to Prime Minister PM Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment and Amelioration of Mother Earth. PM Pranam launched to incentivize the states and union territories to promote alternative fertilizers and balanced use of chemical fertilizers. Consider the following statements. States can receive up to 50% of subsidy savings as grants. Statement 2, the state can use 70% of the grant given under the scheme, under the PM Pranam scheme, for asset creation related to alternate fertilizer production and technological adoption of alternate fertilizer units at block, village, and district levels. States can use 30% of the grant money to incentivize panchayats, FPOs, farmer producer organizations, farmers and SHGs, self-help groups involved in awareness generation and reducing fertilizer use. So the answer is yes. Now, basically, we know that we are a country where we import fertilizers. And if we do not import fertilizers, we cannot increase or we cannot, keep the yield, agricultural yield or farm yield according to our demand. We need to feed 1.4 billion people. So fertilizers or production of fertilizers, self-sufficiency in fertilizers is in fact emerging as a major matter of national importance. So on one hand, we are increasing the domestic capacity to produce fertilizers, and on the other hand, we are trying out with alternative fertilizers, like moving towards biofertilizers, away from chemical fertilizers, understanding the environmental and economic significance. Now, PM Pranam scheme is a scheme which has been launched to incentivize the states. So we know that not only the center, but the states would also have to step in. So what is basically the scheme of this? Suppose a state, they have made many initiatives like zero budget natural farming, or they might have promoted organic farming, no matter what, or they might have started using, nano urea, or, there could be multiple, ways by which we can reduce, the use of irrational use of fertilizers. That is, applying fertilizers beyond its requirement. Soil health card, and helping farmers to identify the correct requirement of fertilizers to be used. So whatever be it, a state has taken some measures to rationalize the use of fertilizers. And that state has saved, let us say, 100 rupees compared to the last year. That state has saved 100 rupees on subsidies given to fertilizers. We know the fertilizers, the subsidy given on fertilizers is too deep. It is approximately 1 lakh crore Indian rupees every year. So let us assume that state government has taken certain measures, and this has led, or this has resulted in a saving of 100 rupees in subsidies. Now, what the center would do is, the center would give 50 rupees as grant. That is 50% of the savings made on subsidies by that state as grant. And 70% of that grant, that is 35 rupees, can be used by the state for asset creation. Similarly, asset creation means capital expenditures, adoption of alternate fertilizer units at block, village, district levels, and 15 rupees can be provided as an incentive to the panchayats, FPOs, and self-help groups in creating awareness generation. So this is a, what we call as a cooperative federal model. Cooperative federal model, in order to reduce the use of, not reduce the use, in order to promote rational utilization of fertilizers. So answer is 1, 2, and 3. Sorry, answer is 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So here we have given the PM Pranam scheme. So this is the status of fertilizer use and subsidy. So you can see how the fertilizers have been, the use of fertilizers has increased between 2017-18 financial year and 2021-22 financial year in lakh metric tons. Now, fifth question is about nano diammonia phosphate. Consider the following statement. It would lower the farm input cost, higher absorption efficiency, reduce subsidy bills on imported fertilizers, promote algae boom. So we need to understand that recently, last year, the center has come out along with IFCO, nano urea. So basically the objective of whatever be nano urea or nano diammonium phosphate is to make sure that farmers use these fertilizers or apply these fertilizers in a very rational manner. We know that our farmers are utilizing these fertilizers in an irrational manner. They are applying more than required amount of fertilizers because these fertilizers are available to them at a very cheap price. The fertilizers are heavily subsidized in India. Now coming to nano urea, basically the objective of nano urea is to, use the fertilizers on a rational manner, not asking them for not using the fertilizers, but only use fertilizers in a very rational manner. So the same concept or the same objective can be extrapolated to nano diammonium phosphate. Okay, it would lower farm input cost. That is a true statement, because compared to conventional diammonium phosphate, the amount of diammonium phosphate, nano diammonium phosphate that needs to be applied is low. So the farmers only have to use so much less diammonium phosphate. And because of the nano structure, higher absorption efficiency can be achieved. So through the stomato, also these fertilizers would be absorbed by the plants. And this would reduce subsidy bill on imported fertilizers. Yes. Why? Because these are, you know, non-nitrogenous fertilizers, nitrogenous fertilizers, diammonium phosphate, that are, developed and produced domestically. So we can reduce the import dependence. India can reduce the import dependence on diammonium phosphate. So that is true. Promote algae boom. So we know that when a fertilizer is applied, in an irrational manner, more than what a plant can absorb, what happens over a period of time is that the fertilizers that are applied but not utilized by the plants would be lying on the soil. Now, these unutilized fertilizers would be washed to the nearby water bodies. Okay, so we know during the rain, these fertilizers would be washed to the nearby water bodies. Or we know that we often practice flood irrigation. So at the end of the, you know, during the harvesting period, this water would be left. The water would be flown out. So during that period, these unutilized conventional fertilizers would be washed away to the nearby water bodies, and this would lead to what we call as eutrophication. So algae bloom is a consequence of eutrophication. So the water would become rich in nutrients. As a result, the algae boom would happen. And we know this would lead to many environmental damages. So answer is 1, 2, and 3 only. Option A. So we should expect a question from nano urea or liquid urea or from nano diammonium phosphate. What are the benefits associated with, adopting such fertilizers? Consider the following trade settlement in Indian rupees: bilateral multilateral currency swap agreement, devaluation of Indian rupees, full capital account convertibility regime. Which among the above can necessarily help ensure drain in foreign exchange reserves during an adverse macroeconomic scenario? Okay, so we need to actually, see the scenarios which would help prevent. Okay, we need this drain in foreign exchange reserves during an adverse macroeconomic scenario has to be addressed. How? So when trade settlement in Indian rupees is practiced, we know we can settle the trade in Indian rupees. So foreign currency assets like dollars or euro, for that matter, pound sterling, need not be used. So as a result, our foreign exchange reserves would not be depleted. So trade settlement in Indian rupees. So that is the reason why India has been vociferously advocating, for global trade settlement in Indian rupees. But, there are many challenges. Many countries are, not willing to accept Indian rupees because we, you know, they are enjoying a huge trade surplus with India. So finally, they would end up with Indian rupees in their bank accounts, and they may not be able to, utilize these Indian rupees. Okay, so instead, if they have dollars or more, acceptable currencies like euro or pound sterling, they can utilize these currencies. So trade settlement in Indian rupees, that is a true statement. Bilateral multilateral currency swap agreement, yes. So it would prevent, it would, when there is a capital flight, a flight of capital due to a panic in the financial market, bilateral multilateral currency swap agreements provide as a shock absorber, instilling faith on the financial sector. So that is also a true statement. Devaluation of Indian rupees, no. Full capital account convertibility. So this would help the investors to easily exit the financial market. So answer is A, option A, 1 and 2. Prompt with reference to prompt corrective action framework. Consider the following statements. The RBI's scale-based regulations applies PCA framework to all deposit-taking NBFCs and all non-deposit taking NBFCs in middle, upper, and top layers. The PCA framework excludes NBFCs not accepting or not intending to accept public funds, government companies, primary dealers, and housing finance companies. So we need to understand that the RBI scale-based regulations apply PCA framework to all deposit-taking NBFCs and all non-deposit-taking NBFCs. No, that is a false statement. That is a false statement. PCA framework excludes NBFCs not accepting. That is a true statement. So answer is 1 only. Answer is 2 only. 2. Option B. Answer is option B. Prompt corrective action framework has been extended to the non-banking financial sector also. So we need to understand what do you mean by a prompt corrective action framework in that context. A very important question is about Finance Commission of India. The President of India appoints Finance Commission every 5th year or at such earlier time as he considers necessary. The Constitution of India empowered the Parliament to make laws that lay down the procedures and qualifications for the appointment as members to the Finance Commission. The recommendations of the Finance Commission is not binding upon the Government of India. So the first statement, yes, it is the President of India that appoints the Finance Commission every 5th year. So we need to understand that the Finance Commission is a constitutional body, but unlike the Election Commission of India or Controller and Auditor General, or for that matter, there are many constitutional officers that are permanent in nature. Finance Commission is not a permanent constitutional body. Okay, not a permanent, not a permanent constitutional body. It is constituted every 5th year. And we know for what purpose Finance Commission is constituted. The Constitution of India has empowered the Parliament to make laws. So you can see here the Article 282 empowers the Parliament to make laws that lays down the procedures and qualifications for the appointment as members to the Finance Commission. And in that regard, the Parliament has enacted Finance Commission Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1951. So that is also a true statement. The recommendations of Finance Commission is not binding upon the Government of India, or in other words, the recommendations are basically advisory in nature. Okay, so answer is option D, 1, 2, and 3. Option D, 1, 2, and 3. So here you can see, go through, the article on Finance Commission. The center will soon kick off the process to set up the 16th Finance Commission. Very important. 16th Finance Commission. So the 15th Finance Commission was chaired by N.K. Singh, and you can go through it. It would comprise of a public affairs expert as chairperson and 4 other whole-time members. The composition are judges of High Court of India, specialized knowledge in finance, economics, or practical experience in financial matters, practical experience in public administration. So the constitutional functions and mandate has been given. So you can go through it. Finance Commission. The ninth question is regard to the allocation of election symbols, and this is very important. National parties, allocation of election symbols, defection. So because all of these matters have perturbed the Indian political system over the past 1 year, a question from, what are the criteria to be a national political party, or with regard to the, defection 10th schedule, or allocation of electoral symbols. This can be asked. The Constitution of India empowers the Election Commission of India to adjudicate the dispute arising over claims to its election symbol and make binding decisions over symbols among warring factions within recognized national and political parties. The Election Commission of India usually advises the warring faction to resolve their differences internally or to approach the court for splits in registered but unrecognized parties. So both statements, both 1 and 2, both statements are true. Option C, electoral symbols. 10th question is about International Financial Services Center, and this has been set up at GIFT City, Gujarat International Finance Tech City, a multi-service special economic zone located at Gandhi Nagar. With reference to International Financial Service Center, consider the following statement. The International Financial Service Center at Gandhi Nagar provide trans-border financial products and service to customers outside the jurisdiction of domestic economy. That is a true statement. The entities operating within the premises of the GIFT City will be classified as an overseas office, allowing them to avoid foreign exchange hedging cost. That is also a true statement. So answer is option C, both 1 and 2. Option C, both 1 and 2. So International Financial Service Center is in fact a pet project of current Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and he has made several efforts to promote International Financial Service Center. Recently, International Financial Service Centers Authority was constituted to regulate the activities within the premises of the International Financial Service Center. So with this initiative, the objective is to, emerge as a global financial center in the league of, Singapore or London, or for that matter, Dubai. So with this in mind, International Financial Service Center has been, the first International Financial Service Center has been set up at Gandhi Nagar in Gujarat, at GIFT City. So that is about the 10 questions that we planned for today. I believe that, yes, you can see here, an International Renewable Energy Development Agency has recently started its operations at GIFT City. So there are many advantages, services offered by International Financial Services Center. So with this, I'm concluding this session on Prelims Roundup. So this would be the last session. If you have any doubts or queries with regard to any topics that we have discussed so far, please feel free to reach out to us. And I wish everyone a nice day ahead. And I thank everyone for being a participant of the session.